There's an emergency meeting in Thornton Township right now. It's to approve insurance contracts.
So let's check in with Dane Placco to see how talks are going so far. Dane.
Yeah, we're in the basement of the South Holland Public Library where they're holding this meeting because they can't use the Township building across the street. More on that later. This is an emergency meeting called by two Thornton Township trustees. We're going to walk in as it's happening right now, who are opposed to Supervisor Tiffany Henyard. Now, the goal of this meeting was to simply get the Township reopened, which has been basically ground to a halt because of the Township's insurance coverage that lapsed. All services have stopped, and the Township building is physically locked across the street. They also want to pass the tax levy for the Township, a procedural move. They need to keep tax revenues flowing in. All this a part of an ongoing political battle between those two trustees and Supervisor Henyard, who they accuse of withholding financial information while she's at the center of an FBI corruption investigation. Now, the big question here this afternoon was, will Tiffany Henyard show up for this meeting? And as it turns out, she did not. The meeting waited till it was supposed to start at 4 o'clock. They waited till about 4:15 when Trustee Chris Gonzalez stood up and said, we're not going to be able to have the meeting, but we will be able to have public comment, and that is what is happening right now. Members of the public speaking their mind about Tiffany Henyard and the problems that the taxpayers here in Thornton Township are facing. Now, there is supposed to be another meeting in the village of Dolton where Tiffany Henyard serves as mayor. It's supposed to start at 6 o'clock tonight. The status of that meeting is in question, however. An aide to Henyard has been sending out notices that the meeting has been canceled for safety and security concerns. However, we've been talking to the people, representatives of the four trustees opposed to Henyard there. They say they do intend to go on with that meeting tonight. They say that the meeting will be safe, there will be police on hand, and that they do have enough trustees on hand to form a quorum so that this meeting will be legal and can be held. It does not appear that Tiffany Henyard is going to show up at that meeting. So the political imbroglio continues here in Thornton Township and in the village of Dolton. We'll keep you posted as to what's coming next.
Tensions are at an all-time high between Tiffany Henyard and the Thornton Township Board.
Our Dane Placco was on the Henyard beat today at another packed community meeting.
Thornton Township residents filled a community room at the South Holland Library for an emergency Township Board meeting. But 20 minutes after the meeting was supposed to start,
it appears we have lack of quorum, so unfortunately there will not be a meeting.
That's because Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard ghosted the meeting that had been called by two opposition trustees to deal with the Township's insurance crisis. What's your reaction to the fact she didn't show up?
Well, I mean, not surprised. We're on the toll road of chaos right now, and unfortunately the residents are the ones who are paying these tolls, and that just needs to stop.
Thornton Township operations have been essentially shut down since December 1st when its insurance coverage lapsed. When we tried to get inside today, the door was locked. The two trustees who called today's meeting have refused to attend previous meetings because they say Henyard won't turn over financial information while she's at the center of an FBI corruption investigation. And even though there was no meeting tonight, there was public comment, resident after resident getting up to blister the absent supervisor.
Sad, pitiful, absolutely the leader of an evil cabal.
And even though the township has no auto insurance, one resident showed me video she took last week showing township buses on the move in Dolton.
Yeah, it's horrible that you would do unlawful things.
So this is when their insurance is lapsed.
Right, the insurance was lapsed. They've been driving these vehicles all week. She even took some people to the bingo. So she's been, and I told them this is unlawful. To be, if somebody get hurt, a township is going to be liable.
And there's a literal price to all this chaos. Trustee Gonzalez tells me they can only find insurance in the secondary market that costs 3 times as much for even less coverage. Nobody seems to know when there's going to be another meeting. In South Holland, Dane Placco.
Both the municipalities she represents tried to get down to business, but in Dolton and Thornton Township, Tiffany Henyard was noticeably absent.
Archer Monteri is always investigating. It may be a new year, but it's a similar story. Some neighbors and other politicians are fed up.
In this new year, Tiffany Henyard opted to skip 2 meetings on the same day, leaving many people to wonder what's her next move as the primary draws near. Before the Dolton Village meeting started, fired up residents came out to the first meeting of 2025. While it's a new year, folks still frustrated about the ongoing lack of transparency from their mayor, Tiffany Henyard. The mayor claimed threats were made before Monday night's meeting.
If there was any bona fide threat, certainly they would let the trustees know. They wouldn't let this meeting proceed. They wouldn't want anyone to be in harm's way. I think it's just a way of the mayor trying to attempt to cancel this meeting.
So after giving her 15 extra minutes to arrive, the mayor was a no-show on this Monday. It gave residents the chance to express their anger about her days in office.
Is it her major accomplishment? The $18,000 banners that we all know about on Sibley that were hung up there with her face on it?
Go to the polls. Vote.
Hours earlier, another meeting, this time in Thornton Township. The clock showed 4:15, and Henyard was another no-show.
It appears we have lack of quorum, so unfortunately there will not be a meeting.
Trustees called the emergency meeting to try to address the insurance which is lapsed in the township. Henyard claims there's no property, auto, liability, or workers' comp insurance because trustees Chris Gonzalez and Carmen Carlisle have failed to show up to previous meetings.
This is something that could have been taken care of previously. They didn't have to come to the board, so they played a game with it. Now they're kind of in a tough spot because they don't know what to do, because now companies are saying, hey, we don't want to cover you.
Residents expressed their concerns as well about Henyard's absence.
Tiffany wants the seniors to believe that Chris and Carmen are the reasons why the insurance was not paid, therefore causing services to be interrupted.
She's a big coward for not showing up for the people.
Voters will head to the polls first here in Dolton in February for the primary election. Henyard was kicked off of the Democratic ticket for the supervisor position. That's a fight she continues to work on. Reporting in Dolton, I'm Jermont Terry, CBS News, Chicago.
Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard was the center of attention at a community meeting tonight.
Only Henyard wasn't there. Our Nate Rogers is, though. And Nate, this got heated again.
Absolutely, Don and Scott. Hours before tonight's meeting, Mayor Tiffany Henyard announced on social media that the meeting would be canceled after she received, quote, credible threats made by multiple, credible threats made against multiple elected officials. That meeting still took place tonight. As you mentioned, Henyard was not in attendance. Board of Trustees saying that they received no information on credible threats. Now, take a look inside of the meeting. A Dolton Park District auditorium was packed with residents, most of them critics of Henyard, encouraged to dress in Army fatigue. Mayor Pro Tem Jason House ran the meeting with at least 4 trustees and a clerk present, which constitutes a quorum. More than a dozen people spoke during public comments, addressing the township's animal control not being properly licensed, streets plowed in a timely fashion, and Henyard's alleged late rent payments on her home. Also present was Fania Dukes, who claims she was allegedly fired by Henyard after reported being sexually assaulted by Dolton trustee Andrew Holmes in Las Vegas last year. Holmes has not been charged in this case. Here's more from Dukes and others that spoke tonight.
I'm going to be here standing up for myself by myself, but look at y'all right next to me. I love y'all too.
I would never respect someone who chose to fire a sexual assault victim to keep an alleged predator named Andrew Holmes in a seat just to vote her way.
Now she want to call in a threat of a credible. She is the threat. She is the outright unadulterated threat.
We do not need her right here in this venue because we have the quorum. We swing this thing in Thornton Township, we'll have a quorum in both places.
And after public comments and general announcements, trustees went into a closed executive session to address other matters. 2 important dates were mentioned. First, a Thornton Township Town Hall taking place January 21st at 6 p.m. That's at South Suburban College. Secondly, February 25th, the day of Dolton's election. This is ladies here in Dolton, Nate Rogers, Fox 32 Chicago.